This book deals with subject matter that is very different from our first two episodes. In The Deer Hunter, we will be talking about murder and other horrors of war. So, buckle up.
Yep, what a fun read.
Welcome to Novelize This, where we discuss books that are based on movies, video games, and more. I'm Mark.
And I'm Chris.
Today we are discussing The Deer Hunter.
And let me tell you, Mark.
Yes.
You came in with this as like, this will be a fun read. And then I remembered it was The Deer Hunter.
I thought it was a sequel to Bambi.
I think a lot of people did. I'm pretty certain that's also a Simpsons joke.
What? I'm funny enough to write for The Simpsons. That's not saying much.
I'm not, no. Yeah, well.
So, The Deer Hunter, a 1979 novel based on a 1978 film, a novel by E.M. Corder, also known as Eric Corder. That's his pen name. His real name was Gerald Mundis.
That's a much cooler name. Oh, I did want to mention, though, that so while E.M. Corder is the author of the novelization, the original script was written by Michael Cimino and Derek Washburn and Louis Garfinkel, which I thought was interesting just because Michael Cimino was also the director of the movie.
Yeah.
So he was very much a part of this. And I'm going to try really hard not to talk about the movie a whole lot during this, but it's The Deer Hunter, right? Like,
You're
people know
fresh
it
off
as
of a
the
watch
film.
too, right?
And I watched it today, and it's a 3-hour long movie that, boy, it does not really let up emotionally.
Yeah. Are you going to get through this?
It is a
Are you
ride.
going to be able to get through today's episode, Chris?
I'm going to say real quick, Robert De Niro was 35 years old when he filmed that movie, and they are described in the book as being just out of their teen years, which,
yeah.
ooh,
Well,
don't buy it.
Well, The Breakfast Club, they were all teens too, right?
Teens.
Before we talk more about the author, did you want to talk about your relationship with the book? With the movie, rather?
Yeah, so of course I did not know this was a novelization, right? They don't have The Deer Hunter at middle school book fairs, which are where most of my novelizations came from as a kid.
And just Dumb and Dumber and The Deer Hunter right side by side.
Exactly. I watched it in undergrad, in college, literally 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago at this point.
Yeah, same.
I remember it being a very, emotional anti-war movie. It encouraged me to ask my dad about his time with the Vietnam War, because he was in the Navy, and but otherwise I just remembered it for the reason everyone else remembers it. It's the movie about Russian roulette.
Yeah,
that's what most people know about this and that's kind of all I could really remember about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. A couple of those scenes really stick with me, and I couldn't even remember who the actors were. I'm going to tell you who I thought was in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Before looking. I even after reading the book and knowing who is in it and who's not in it, I have a really clear memory of Daniel Stern.
Okay. All right. Well, this is now we're going places.
Is Daniel Stern in this movie?
No, dude. No. Who did you think Daniel Stern was?
Nick.
Nick is Christopher Walken, my man. Oh no! Your experience was so very different from mine.
How did I mix up Christopher Walken? Oh my god.
Oh man. In your mind's eye, when you were reading the book, when you were reading about Nick, you were picturing Daniel Stern.
Yes. Wow. For years, I have told people at parties how Daniel Stern is an underrated actor. Sure, you know him from Home Alone, but have you seen The Deer Hunter? He's fucking amazing.
Oh, no.
One shot, Marv. It's just gonna take one shot.
But to that point, the one shot, there are so many things that are culturally 3 degrees separated from this I don't know. I'm not surprised that, like, I guess that there would be something in your head about that.
I don't know what my... I mean, I guess the Wonder Years is set during the Vietnam era, right?
Yes.
There's some
Yeah,
connective tissue.
A quick Google search of E.M. Corder pretty much only told me the Deer Hunter novelization, and that was it. So please fill me in with more knowledge about this character.
Yeah, he apparently had a bunch of pen names. Like, he sometimes went by a woman, and he sometimes apparently proclaimed to be like a black scholar or something. Don't know how I feel about that. Yeah. He was born in 1941, and he actually just died in 2020 of COVID.
Oh, wow. Jeez Louise.
Yeah. Yeah, he was father to 2 sons. But yeah, he wrote a lot of pulp thrillers, most notably the Shame and Glory saga. He did a few other novelizations, including one... We have to read this, Chris. It's called Wonton Ton, The Dog Who Saved Hollywood.
I feel like I've actually heard that book before.
I want to read it so bad.
Okay, well, throw it on the docket.
His true calling, though, is as a financial counselor. And he wrote a bunch of nonfiction books, and most of those were self-help financial guides. I think that's where his money was really made.
But one of them was his true passion.
Yeah, the dog, right? Yeah. He did actually teach writing, and he wrote at least one book about writing. Which that's cool. That's kind of cool, yeah. All right, I guess that leads us right into it, Chris. Where do you want to start?
So, okay, this is my disclaimer, having watched the movie today. And the reason why... So normally when we do these, I try really hard not to watch even clips based off of whatever it is. I want to try and treat this book as it is a book. I'm approaching it as if I was reading a book. And the first thing that really set me off with this, and why ultimately spoiler alert, I didn't really like it as a book, is that this is the most describing what is happening on the screen style of writing, with no inner monologues and no motivations and no kind, like everything is subtext because you're only getting a view on the surface. And that's why I ended up watching the movie. So I'm going to try not to reference the movie a whole heck of a lot. It's a powerful movie that I would really recommend, but it is 3 hours long, and I may have watched it at 1.5 times speed today. But
just as Michael Cimino would have wanted. You watched it on your phone too, right? I hope. Sitting on the toilet.
I watched it on a small monitor while I was painting models. So,
okay. There we go.
So,
yeah. I remember reading about how he asked all the film goers to bring their models into the theaters. And
so, this book is a major difference between the movie and the book. The book is divided up into 3 books, essentially, that are The Mountains, The Jungle, and Home. 1968, 1970, 1975, I think, was Return to Home. And the movie just cuts from like one to the other. So while the movie is almost one stream of consciousness thing, the fact that this is so divided up, I thought was interesting. But ultimately, the picture that we get in the beginning of this book is a steel town, Clarehorn, in the Allegheny Mountains.
Yeah, it's like set in the Ozarks, right?
Yep. Population 36,500 people. And we're kind of dropped into this town. But the first obstacle I had to overcome is the fact that I have no idea what this world is. This is a small, Slavic-dominated community, mine town, Allegheny Mountains, and it's 1968. And I realized this hugely kind of like Slavic Russian population. Like, I didn't know that was really a thing. You get, kind of the introduction to the characters. You have your main characters of Michael, Nick, and Steven. And then you get their kind of 2 buddies, Axel and Stan. Okay. Here's where kind of like my first major question kind of came in, which is we are told Steven is getting married today. And in 2 days, Michael, Nick, and Steven are going to Vietnam. Okay, they have enlisted. Okay, in a conflict that was notorious for having the draft, they willingly enlisted.
Yeah.
And one of the big questions that is never addressed is why.
There's a section about why. It's brief. This was a steel town where parents and grandparents still remembered the oppression and poverty of the countries of their childhoods and were feverishly loyal to their new land. All that had caused them to enlist. There's a church that physically looms over the town. In the novel, it's described as like there's the mill and the church.
Right.
Those are everything else is just houses. Well, the bar. There's a bar everybody goes to all the time. There's a lot of drinking in this. But it's just this loyalty to the church, serving a god, and this loyalty to the mill. Nobody's complaining about their job there. There's a scene early on in the book where they're kind of joking around and their boss tells them to get back to work, but they all kind of smile it off. There's no point at which they're like, what a bastard, I hate working for him, I wish I wasn't stuck in this town. So their loyalty is also to capitalism. This idea that what I'm being offered here is better than communist Russia. I think that's why Russia was community.
So here's my criticism of kind of the writing of this. I would have loved there to be a conversation between characters to illustrate any of these ideas. Not just, here's 4 lines of tell, don't show, and then you're just supposed to kind of go with it.
It's actually funny that the book starts with a quote from Ernest Hemingway, the king of sparse language, right?
It is an appeal to greatness.
Well, yeah. When you're writing a screenplay, all you can do is write what's going to be seen and heard.
Yes.
And I think your criticism of this book is that it is very much like, well, I saw this and I heard this in the movie, so I'm going to put it down on the page.
The strength of a book in my mind is that you can look into someone's mind's eye, right? Like you can get their internal monologue, you can get their thoughts in the moment. And because that's not in the movie, I feel like that's not in the book.
When he's using the fact that this is a book to his advantage, it's really in describing the setting and not so much the characters.
Yeah, there's some fantastic scene setting stuff, but I think it's because it's effectively transcribing a visual medium.
Yeah.
Like, how would you describe a painting in words? That's almost what it's like to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, so we have these 3 friends. I also got to look up what the phrase cuckold's horns meant, because as they are leaving the mill and, Stephen is getting, everyone's getting ready for the wedding, they flash cuckold's horns, which again is a little bit of foreshadowing for information we're going to get shortly. Real quick, cuckold's horns, those are it's supposed to be ram's horns that are reminiscent of your wife is sleeping around on you.
Yeah. My wife Chayo is from Mexico, and they say El Venao, and they do deer antlers on their head, and it's that same concept.
Yeah, well, and so here's where it pops up, is that we see Angela, Stephen's bride-to-be, and she is apparently pregnant. And as is discussed kind of further down the road, multiple characters have had sex with Angela, but not Stephen. Stephen claims after the wedding, as he's fairly drunk, that he has never slept with her, which again, okay, characterization time, right? Who is Stephen as a character? Well, he is a man who is willing to marry a woman in a very close-knit community who is pregnant not with his child.
Mm-hmm.
That evokes a certain type of character that we do not see.
There's a line here where it says that Stephen had left his boyhood behind, but had yet to settle comfortably into manhood.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
He's in that weird in-between age. I get it. So he's probably around 18, 19. But so what I want to know, does Stephen love Angela? Or is this Stephen trying to cover for Angela? He's going to go into Vietnam. This gives her the ability to say, like, my child is legitimate, and if something were to happen to him, she would get a widow's pension.
Yeah.
But those would all be explanations that would tell us about Stephen's character, and we don't get that.
These guys get together, and they drink, and they hunt.
Yep, that is what they do. They work in the steel mill,
Yeah.
they drink when they're not working the steel mill, and then they go hunting where they will also drink.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we get Axel and Stan with Nick and Michael. We get that this is like the no homo platonic ideal between like male relationships, right? That him and Nick, they live together. They're both interested in the same woman that we didn't even talk about, who is Linda. But that ultimately Michael tells Nick, "Hey, if you don't come back, I go hunting alone for the rest of my life. Like I don't there's nobody else I want to hunt with."
Yeah.
They talk about Michael's like idea of the one shot. It should only take one shot to kill a deer. And even Nick, you know, tells Michael like, "Hey, don't leave me over there. Don't leave me."
Yeah. Their relationship is the most interesting thing to me. I felt like earlier in the book, this relationship between Nick and Michael, it's more intimate than any of the other relationships.
Yes.
The relationships they have with the other guys is they're buddies, they're drinking buddies, they talk crap about each other in a playful way, but not Nick and Michael. Nick and Michael are gentler with each other and more introspective with each other than even with the woman they seem to be interested in, Linda. And I couldn't help but feel like maybe they were romantically involved, which is one of the many, many things that is not stated overtly.
There's the closest they get to it is when Stan doesn't have any of his gear to go hunting and they're already up at the mountain, right? He gets real mad at Michael for Michael's being a hard ass and saying, "No, you don't bring your stuff, you don't get any of this." Then Stan says, you know, "I fixed you up 1,000,000 times, Mike." Stan stomped over to the others and addressed them. "I fixed him up 1,000,000 times. I don't know how many times I fixed him up with the girls and nothing ever happened. 0. That's all. A big 0. And then Stan turned and pointed a finger. "The trouble with you, Mike, is that no one ever knows what the hell you're talking about." And then he calls him one of the few words that I do not like to say out loud. You know, a slur for a homosexual person. Mm-hmm. And that feels telling, right? Like that's one of the few kind of back and forth dialogues that we get.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're building towards something that never culminates.
Exactly. Yeah. That scene is crucial to me. When Michael and Nick are alone, they talk about needing each other.
Yeah.
And like ensuring each other's safety.
Yeah. Don't leave
and
me.
When Stan accuses Michael of being gay, Michael doesn't refute it.
Nope.
Up to that point, they build this community as being very orthodox, very blue collar. These guys are, to use the language of the book, not the language I prefer, but they're talking about pussies and they're constantly talking about how
chasing girls and getting drunk is the only you know, that and hunting, those are the 3 things they want to be doing at all times.
Exactly. And they don't ever talk about Vietnam except Michael and Nick.
Yeah.
And the other guys are like afraid to admit that they're afraid.
Yeah, that their friends are going to go to a war.
Mm-hmm. So whenever Michael is called that slur, you would think he would be up in arms, trying to defend himself or even getting violent with Stan in any sort of like stereotypical like man having to defend his manhood way, especially in the 70s or 60s, whatever point this is in the book. He doesn't do it. He just smiles.
Yeah.
And he even looks over at Nick.
That's the kind of thing that a 21st century book, I think, would be more, at least willing to engage with. This, it almost feels like they want to go, you know, hey, maybe there's something there, and then they don't want to address it.
Yeah.
We go from such happy times as hunting and returning. Michael gets his one shot, and then smash cut! The jungle! 1970. Which, man, this is so jarring. Essentially, it's like starting Act 2 with, okay, did you know that there were atrocities in Vietnam? Did you know that it was really bad? God, it's just it comes in so hard. You know, we're gonna grenade a bunch of people as the Viet Cong, and then we're gonna like shoot a woman and her baby. Everyone in Michael's squad is dead, but he manages to go over and get a flamethrower, and he sets a guy on fire. And it's just like, holy God! Like what are we doing? Like, yes, the horrors of war. You know, we learned that Michael was in a different squadron than Nick and Steve, but they happen to be the part of the team who rescues him. Well, attempts to rescue him, right? And again, there's just a flurry of that. What? There's so much that you have to kind of mentally catch up with. And by the time you catch up with it, it's smash cut to they're captured.
A lot of this felt like a play, like a stage play.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, these guys are coming back. We have a small cast, and they will be returning in the second act. It's whereas real war is big, and you're not going to see those guys again.
The book would have been better served with just more details or more information.
It just lists a bunch of horrible things from the war.
In rapid succession.
Yeah, in this way that I feel like it's trying to make the reader feel unsafe. You're not in a small town anymore. This is not something that these characters know how to deal with.
Right.
And you as a reader don't know what you're looking at either, really.
That brings us into the first Russian roulette scene. And so for folks who maybe don't know what Russian roulette is, this movie made this famous. You take a revolver that has a cylinder that you can spin out to load ammunition in. You load in a single round. You spin the cylinder and then snap it back into the gun. So now you don't know which cylinder actually holds the ammunition. And then two people take turns holding the gun to their own head and pulling the trigger. And they win if they don't get shot in the head.
Yeah.
And then the VC soldiers, who are just absolute dehumanized animals, their laughter is described as hooting, which is not something I see except when referring to monkeys. So that was kind of jarring. They're betting on this. They're betting with stolen watches and jewelry and apparently like American money. Like it is harrowing, as much as it has pretty much no basis in reality, as far as historians can tell. Yeah,
it's pretty horrible. I feel like
it's rough, right? And so not only do you have this depiction of just dehumanizing behavior onto the captors and also to the prisoners, you get like just this absolutely crushing depiction of Stephen just losing his mind. Truly, and I think that's one of the things that this book and movie does really well is the idea of being so scared you can't even think straight. That you're just terrified and horrified. Where it really culminates is Stephen and Michael are chosen to play the game.
Yeah.
No, Stephen is so scared, and it's all Michael can do is just be like, you gotta do it. You gotta play. We're going to get out. Like, we're going to be, you know, you just have to do it.
He tells him to, quote, use his fucking head. I thought that was a poor choice of words.
Yeah. As Michael talking to Stephen, who then proceeds to pull the trigger, and he jerks his head out of the way and manages to just skin the top of his head. I guess it's a draw.
Yeah.
And it's just some of the descriptions of their imprisonment, the cage that Stephen gets put into.
Yeah.
It's rough. And the scene between Michael and Nick with the plan. We need to try and do something because otherwise we're going to die. Like, this is true desperation. And Michael demanding 3 bullets. 3 bullets is what I want. And because the plan is, well, even if I shoot myself, or even if one of us shoots ourselves, we'll still have 2 more shots, right? And we just have to try and get it to where we can try and take them down. And as soon as the gun goes off, you got to grab one of their rifles and make your move. That to me is why this kind of works, is that in this situation, the terseness, the sheer desperation, like these are just events that are happening. That worked for me much more than in the first part.
Yeah. These guys, they're captured pretty quickly after Michael is on his like fiery rampage.
Yeah.
During the rampage, Michael is described as having vacant eyes. He's sort of dead inside. He's just a machine for the army now. I think it's a really smart move from a story perspective to get them all together in this small place against these huge odds, because it forces Michael to be human again, to save himself. Whereas out there, he's Rambo. And here, he's a mouse. He's in a cage.
I think you're referring to Rambo as the later Rambo movies where he's an unstoppable force mowing down his enemies. I think of Rambo First Blood, where he is essentially someone who has been turned into a weapon and doesn't know how to turn it off. And that's, but yeah, I guess.
I hear what you're saying, Chris. I hear we're going to read Rambo, the novelization. It's fine.
I'd read Rambo.
That would be a fun juxtaposition.
But they managed to escape. They managed to rescue Steven in a way. And this part kind of lost me a little bit just because I had a hard time kind of understanding what was happening as they escape by climbing onto a log and floating down the river.
Yeah.
Until they happen to come upon a battle that they happen to get on an American helicopter. Yeah. It's
all very much, again, like a stage play for me, where it's like, this stuff is just, I'm imagining like the bottom of the helicopter. You just see like the rails or whatever it is, like, They come in like
they
poke out
lower just
from the
down,
curtain.
Just low enough for people to grab onto, and then raise up, and then you have like these other kids come out with like the cardboard waves to represent like the river underneath them. Yeah, guess I could see that. But
I think we have a YouTube video on our hands. So.
But all is not well. While it looks like they have been rescued, Michael and Steven cling to the landing gear on the helicopter. Steven falls and plummets into the river. And again, this is where some of the characterization stuff is like, Michael was ready to cut Steven out, and then Michael is the one to go in after Steven.
Yeah, I know. I don't get it either.
Which, okay, he had a change of heart. It's fine. But Nick is the only one who makes it back in the helicopter. Michael has to bring Steven, carry him, because Steven has broken legs from somehow landing in the river. It doesn't matter. It happened, right? It's just, it happens. And the scene that I was also really struck by, actually a couple of them in this, was Michael essentially demanding that an American armored personnel carrier, an APC, stop, threatens a colonel, and saying, you take this one with you. But ultimately, that brings us to the complete separation of the trio, right? From the perspective of the reader, we lose sight of Michael and we lose sight of Steven. We come back to Nick, and this is one of those things where it really makes me wonder, where it's like, did they know about PTSD? Did they still call it shell shock? Nick has PTSD!
Yeah.
And it's rough because since there's nothing quote unquote physically wrong with him, they kick him out of the military hospital.
Nick wanders around aimless.
And then somehow he he visits a prostitute very, very briefly and wants to call her Linda, which, that feels real bad.
Yeah.
After trying to call her and essentially backing out, just doesn't do it. And then, lo and behold, manages to find a gambling den where people are playing, you guessed it, Russian roulette, and a very strange French man.
It's strange. It says he has an English accent, but he's speaking French.
And his name is like Julien, which yeah. So, needless to say, he gets roped into going in to see Russian roulette being played because the guy thinks that he recognizes someone who'd be good at playing Russian roulette, which is a lot like saying you're good at flipping coins, I guess. You're good at rolling a 6 on a 6-sided die. This is really the part of the story where I get I get really lost because Nick sees what's happening, pushes himself onto like the stage, and then we reveal who else is in the audience but Michael.
Yeah.
Why? Oh my God, I would love anything to tell me why Michael is there. We understand how Nick got there, right? But why was Michael already there?
Yeah.
That's so out of left field. It's there simply to show division. It's there so that way when Michael recognizes Nick, Nick flees being called to, right? That Nick breaks away, Michael is unable to find him. That Michael, who promised to not leave him behind, is unfortunately going to leave him in Vietnam because Nick has gone AWOL.
Yeah. So there's a section here when he's talking to Julian and he says he's going home. Julian says, "To the girl who waits?" "Yeah," says Nick. And then he leaves. So I don't understand what his motivation is. Is he supposed to be the aimless guy who can't remember where he's going because he's so broken? Or is he the guy who is willing to risk this awful gamble in order to secure his way home?
So the way that I read it is I read it more as like an Apocalypse Now kind of thing. That Nick may be here in Saigon, but he's actually still in the jungle. He's actually still in that cage.
Yeah.
The reason why he would kind of step back up is that in that moment when he was fearing for his life, he took control by putting this gun to his head and being willing to pull the trigger, right? Like it was, this is the way that he feels in control. When he tries to think about, well, how would I go back? There is no home for me. Home doesn't exist because home is just this idea. There's just the jungle. That's why I thought it was interesting that the book is divided into the mountains, the jungle, and then in book 3, they just call it home. And Nick doesn't make it home.
This was a terrible idea to read this book. Whose idea was this?
I mean, listen, I just want to, on the record, point out that when you said we should read The Deer Hunter, I was like, The Deer Hunter, right? The Russian roulette book? like that movie, right? But it does transition us into Michael returns home. This is, for me, probably the weakest part of both the book and the movie. This is years later. If The Jungle was 1970, Home is 1973, which means that they've been gone for 5 years. Like, that's a tremendous amount of time. We're rapidly approaching the fall of Saigon, where the United States pulled out of Vietnam and everything kind of went to hell. And I will say this first part was really crushing to me. He sees the decorations, just everybody being inside. They're all excited for Michael to come home. And he tells the taxi cab, "Nope, not this one. Take me out to the hotel on the highway." He can't see them all at the same time. He has to take it piecemeal. Right? Like the first is he comes in and he sees Linda. Then later on, he finds Stan and Axel. They're trying to be like, yeah, you came back. And he is very much like, I mean, sorta. The part where Stan asks, yeah, like how much does it hurt to be shot? And he just says, oh, it doesn't. Like, I love that because that is the most like, what the fuck do you want me to say? Like, there's just nothing that you can give someone in that moment.
Yeah, which harkens back to a scene early on. The night before they leave, they ask a veteran,
right.
Give us a heads up, give us a warning, what are we facing? And he's got nothing for them.
Yep. He just responds, fuck it.
Yeah. I still didn't really understand Vietnam until I saw the documentary The Fog of War, a film by Errol Morris, Robert McNamara. It just says Vietnam was a civil war. That helped me understand the motivation of the people of Vietnam.
Yeah.
And it's still so hard for me to wrap my head around why we fought to get into that conflict to begin with.
Because we were fighting a proxy war against the Soviets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were fighting this idea of communism. Yep. Just like the last 20 years, we've been fighting terrorism.
Yep.
It's just, we're fighting a concept, not a people. And so you just have to keep throwing bombs at it.
Right. And I think that there is some real criticism to be laid at both the film and the book for not wanting to engage in anything beyond how does this affect Americans?
Yeah.
And ultimately what this book comes down to is, particularly in Act 3 here, so we have our three characters. How did they all come back from the war? Again, coming back to the idea of division, Michael has to learn that Stephen is alive from someone, from Stan and Axel. He didn't know that Stephen was alive. For all he knew was that he got Stephen on this APC and they drove off, and that's it.
Yeah.
And when he goes to see Angela, which I don't know how to react to that. I don't know what's going on there, where Angela is apparently catatonic, but surrounded by the gifts from the wedding. Yeah. That was like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And she has her little kid playing with a toaster. Here's one of those big differences I promised that I'd talk about. In the movie, the little kid's not playing with a toaster. Do you want to guess what he's playing with, Mark?
A gun.
It's a gun! It's not subtle! Oh boy. I was floored when I saw it. I was like, it says it's a toaster in the book, which is not a great thing for a kid to play with, but oh boy, a gun. Ay.
Yeah.
And then we finally catch up with Stephen is a double leg amputee playing bingo in a veterans hospital.
He doesn't want to go home. He doesn't want Angela to see him this way. Only part of him came home.
Yeah, in a literal way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he fears that part that made it back isn't good enough. It's not going to be enough to take care of his family. This person he thought he was, who could take somebody's child who wasn't, that wasn't his own, who could protect, I'm assuming, this person who was his friend, Angela, he wants to protect her from the scrutiny of very orthodox townspeople. He doesn't know if that person exists anymore.
Yeah.
He's been broken so much. He couldn't save himself. He had to be saved. How's he going to save his family?
And it's pretty heartbreaking for Michael to talk to his friend, and he's so defeated. He says, "Oh, I gotta go," and then we get such a great scene in a callback from the beginning of the book where Stan threatens someone with a handgun that he has. Michael angrily takes it away from him, and they're like, "Oh, you think that wasn't? I didn't know it wasn't loaded." And he fires a shot up into the ceiling. Yeah, you want to play games? And then puts in a single round, and God, like that's, again, it's you're not actually home.
Looking back at that Hemingway quote, it says that there is no hunting like the hunting of man. Once you've done it, you can never care for anything thereafter.
Yeah.
But it says that you liked it.
Well,
I don't know if that quote is really appropriate. It's none of these people liked it. They're not thirsting for it. They've just been broken by it.
As I said, it was appealing to greatness, right? Like we're gonna put a Hemingway quote at the beginning of this, and we're gonna make everyone, this is what we're evoking.
I think of those Stephen King novels where he has like 8 quotes at the beginning of each chapter or each section of the book. So Michael and Linda strike up a relationship.
Right.
Originally I was thinking like this is them abandoning that relationship that they were developing at the beginning of the story between Nick and Michael. It seems like a complete turnaround, but I don't know that I feel that way now after talking to you.
It is two people coming together with a shared sense of loss. Both of them have lost Nick. Both of them see the other person as a way of being with someone Nick loved. Yeah. And so that it would make sense that when two people who were both connected with their love to this third person, when that third person is missing, they connect with each other as a way to essentially grieve together. Here's why I don't think that actually works in this book. The first time they try to essentially, well, I think Linda tries to have a sexual relationship with him. They go to a motel, which is where I was like, okay, right. He doesn't want to do this in the home that he shared with Nick, right?
Yeah.
But then he just falls asleep, which, okay, you know, he's dealing with stuff, fine. But then the second time, when they finally have sex, where Linda just says, "I'm just so lonely," which is just absolutely crushing to me. Even that just feels like it doesn't feel like two people coming together.
Yeah.
You know, like there isn't this shared sense of grief or loss here, so much as
it almost feels like two people distracting each other.
Right. I would agree with, what does Michael do? He gets up and he leaves. You know?
Yeah.
He puts on his clothes and he leaves, and he goes to get Steven. God, even the whole point of going to get Steven is just a device for us to showcase that Steven has been being sent money.
Yeah.
Apparently from Vietnam. And this is another little difference that I just thought was interesting. But I think they say that the money is being sent in porcelain elephants.
It's a white elephant.
Yes,
which
so
is
literally it's a
like
white
a
elephant.
gift you don't. Yeah.
Yeah,
but it's a little on the nose.
Right, because in the movie they're wooden elephants.
Oh.
And there's a particular scene in the movie where Nick is standing at the window of the prostitute, and he looks down and he goes, "Oh," and he literally says out loud, "Oh, look, elephants." Which is also just like, what? Oh man, we really had to establish elephants. Nick and elephants. Which I just thought was funny. But yeah, white elephant is very on the nose. Because now we're going to take Steven home, and he's got to go back and get Nick, because it turns out Nick's alive too. Yeah. Which somehow, very hand-waved, somehow in the chaos of people getting ready for the Americans to pull out, he's able to find the English/French guy again. Yeah,
there's this whole paragraph or two where it's like, he did bribes and he had an envelope that said top secret and all this. It's just like a... All right.
Yeah, cool. That's fine. Yeah, because the whole point is we're supposed to find out what's happening with Nick, and it turns out Nick, for the past 4 years, well, 3 years. You know what? Let's call it 3 years. He has apparently been raking in the cash on the Russian roulette circuit.
3 years. Let's even say 2 years. Let's even say 1 year. How many times can you play Russian roulette in a year or a month? It says 27 times.
Yeah.
That seems pretty low. 27 times is all he's played.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
Well, and it would make more sense if it was a psych out. Like if you play until the other guy says, no, I'm not willing to do it. But that's not how they establish this here. They play it until someone fucking dies.
Exactly, yeah.
So we finally get to Nick and Michael being face to face. Nick is effectively a shattered wreck of himself, right? Doesn't even react.
Doesn't even recognize Michael.
Yeah, it doesn't, just looks right through him. Michael does the only thing he can think of to be able to reconnect with Nick, which is to play him in Russian roulette. You know, here we are years later, and we're still there as they go through with it.
If Nick doesn't even recognize Michael, but he's sending the elephants home.
Yep. Yeah, he's catatonic, but not. Yeah, and here's the last really big change from the movie to the book. You know, so the way that this final Russian roulette game goes is that Nick picks up the gun first, fires, click, no shot, and then Michael has to pick up the gun, and he is in the book. He's saying, you know, for God's sakes, it's me, it's Mikey, it's Mike. In the movie, Michael essentially says, Nick, I'm here, you know, like, I'm here to take you home, like, I'm going to do this. if this is the only way that you'll be able to see me, and then he puts the gun up to his head and he says, like, I love you, Nick. And then he pulls the trigger and it clicks. And that's when Nick kind of like you see him like kind of visibly come back up.
And that makes more sense when they're so deeply connected. What jars him back to his reality is the thought that this person I love so much, who loves me, is willing to kill himself to save me, to get me back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's missing from here. And another addition to this, in the book, Michael reaches for the gun and it goes off when he touches it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he's sharing the blame or something. I mean, you can, I guess, again, you have to just make up what the reason for that is.
Right.
Whereas in the movie, Nick just pulls his arm away and does it. It's very clearly that he is doing the act all on his own.
Yep. Yeah, and that's more or less where we end off. That and that's where I was so surprised both with the book and the movie with just how really nihilistic this is. This is nothing matters in the end. And the final like sequence of Nick's funeral and everybody going to the bar, they sing God Bless America, and that's it. You know, we don't get any more of a denouement other than Stephen came home and is missing his legs. Michael came home and is absolutely emotionally shattered, and Nick didn't get to come home. Like Nick didn't make it home. For me, this is less of a narrative and more of like a tone poem of misery.
Yeah. And I think even more so than the movie. So that last scene in the movie, they toast to Nick.
Yeah.
And then they're smiling and it freeze frames as the credits roll. In the book, there's no sense of positivity whatsoever. And of course, the book doesn't freeze frame. It just
ends.
It ends. And I feel like that's hammering home the misery in a way that the movie didn't do. And I actually appreciate that from this book, because that feels like a false ending from the movie, Sing God Bless America, and then you're all smiling around the table.
Yeah.
Freeze framing like the Breakfast Club. You know, that's the second time I've mentioned the Breakfast Club today.
Yeah, the goal of the movie was to essentially showcase the horrors of war, but that ultimately, even at the end, whether it was out of a misplaced sense of I'm fighting for my country or what have you, it ends with kind of people saying like, Nick was our friend, and no matter what, we're gonna remember him that way. And here they just go to Nick, and then that's it. So it falls, it falls kind of flat for me in the long run.
I really enjoyed this book. I wasn't put off by the prose style. I liked it, but I feel like all your criticisms, the lack of characterization, the missing motivations, that I really feel like going back to Goodreads and changing my review because it doesn't. I feel disappointed, which I guess is what they wanted us to feel, right?
Yes, honestly, that is how you are supposed to feel. It is not, and everybody lived happily ever after. It is, and everybody lived in the broken remains of who they were. This single event that broke so many people for no reason. Like it's supposed to feel bad when you get to the end, and sure enough, it feels bad. Yeah,
and hopefully our listeners don't feel bad. If you don't feel bad enough, listeners, I'm going to put a link to a playlist on YouTube that'll hopefully put the Vietnam War into context for people who maybe, like me, are not as educated as as I might like to be. And there's a few clips of the movie on there too to kind of help you better understand the conversation here.
And see a very, very young Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
He looks like he's made out of marble.
Yeah, he does. He is chiseled.
He's also very pale and weirdly smooth face. Yeah. He's like a vampire, that guy.
Pretty much.
Has he ever played a vampire in a movie?
No, but he played the Angel of Death.
What was that?
It's called The Prophecy.
The Prophecy.
And he played Gabriel.
So familiar.
And one Viggo Mortensen played the devil.
I guess we're wrapping up now.
We've hit that point of the podcast. What are we doing next, Mark?
Let me open my Chrome tab so I can find out.
Well, let me tell you what we're doing next, because we're reading one of my books next.
Yeah, a happier book than this.
Ironically, we're going to be going to the grimdark far future of humanity, and we're going to be reading a Warhammer 40,000 novel based off of a board game that I own. So we are going to be reading Blackstone Fortress by Darius Hinks, which is part of the Warhammer quest line. I am a huge fan of Warhammer 40k, both the tabletop war game. I have a couple different board games for it, including Blackstone Fortress and Space Hulk, and I love painting the models. So I've read a huge number of Warhammer 40,000 books. I think that there's a fascinating novelization of taking a game and just giving it a tremendous amount of backstory and lore. Mm-hmm. And Blackstone Fortress is a fun one. The characters, like I have models for 90% of the characters in the book. I haven't painted them yet, but I think that this will be, frankly, a lot more fun to read than Deer Hunter. Just putting that out there.
Just a smidge. Our theme song is Was That a Way Message for Me? From the fabulous 8-Bit Betty. Check them out on Spotify, Bandcamp. We will link to them in the show notes. I think that about does it. We'll see you next time in a happier place, that bleak future.
In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
Stay happy.